Fimuna mema.
Dabi Omaha. Constituency boko.
Oh, how you boko? Waka constituency as a media. Maminchia chairman Amponsa.
Chairman Amponsa.
Oh yeah, branch chairman wo Asebu.
Oh, okay.
Na.
Okay.
Ochiremu a nipa abodompem. Aben efidi ahodo etie wo pa e wa Asebu. Nti na wo se nchia eko e ma ba constituency ye boko.
Yeda nyame ase.
Nyame ya adomo a megiri se bibia be koye. Ma sha ase amebo entoa. Na negoso ene omanfo wa Asebu eche nsempa.
Yeah.
Am say afi no bia gitumu se MPP amanyoko no. Se na ma ye no e wo soro ha. Amemu troka. Amemu basa amemu a ama oman no ate akonachi. Amemu a Ghana fo nyina gitum including Dr. Bahumia say enkoyie a edi ahokyere ohia eye Ghana sikasem a enye kra wo yabakosem mu the worst economic conditions in our history abano ombe yen sachire mu
Asempa FM
am say yen as NDC dey say afemu die na ye kyere Ghana fo enyuma pa ye wo ede ma wo mu me kro mu say yabakwasem eye papa e bro NPP fo die so bebre me say me nua sam ye wo ko ka ensem bi aba record and track masa hwe obi is it your free be objective analysis obi eni ho outside of rabid MPP fo bi amini pa kakra bi a obehwe ba omia ho na wa hwe mahama ho akasa okoto aba ma ba omia it will not happen
really.
Nasa ba me only credibility. Where is the credibility? Or can someone wujidi enyeji and na yebe call your analysis. I will show you why.
Okay.
Look, and now I will show the posture. The reason why now I emphasize is say or your vice president na only decision making powers no was an implicit admission say a buying money home thing. If the government had done well, that caveat will not be necessary. The other can say because of your record in Timonto money and I'm logical. Only say the average electorate anywhere in the world. So we ruling party candidates now begin aba. Yeah, say abana woman no more than more normally to Obama. That is how the average electorate makes the decision, and he knows very well. In fact, on one kasa ne surrogate Kofi Bentil. On one say Bawumia is not the favorite for the 2024 elections. The reason is that abana woman now more than on one is get Benton or kind of after saying say Osmote Bawumia, he added it. Why is Bawumia not the favorite? Obi, all the credible polls are in Ghana, outside Ghana, even on scientific online polls. Nipa show my drink shows you say John Mama is leading the polls. Why do you think it is so? Why do you think it is so? Absolutely, it is as simple as that. Sana assembly. We are candidates. Now we are BEMU. In fact, even if you are not in government, now we are ruling party candidate. The decision will be made on you based on Abanye Teswa we are member. It's as simple as that. And one thing about me, it can be 2 months ago. And on Mama Kofi Bentil fly the first kites about whether or not he can be associated or blamed for the woes of Sir Abanye. Oba and a man for trouble on the power. And a bayer now watching or Sandy Baboom. In fact, the first one, I'm sure I took a crowd because as someone can and Tasumu. It didn't make any sense. Look, the narrative Nipa it is a Bentil air driving on. Dangerous.
Why is it dangerous?
What it means is that Amanyokobi and Wababemwa Obefia Bemu.
I better abetiano.
No matter how bad they are. And MPP they have been particularly bad. They have been spectacularly bad. The very worst government Ghana. Obieni. That is the reason why they are trailing in the polls. It's all that the party needs to do. They say, Omepe nipa fufraba. No, Abeka say, I was not part of the decision making. That is the logic of Bento's argument. It is a dangerous narrative. It means that you can be able with impunity. Send the MPP ne Oma Bayeno. What to me say Oma si kasem. Proye can dream ne kakashe to me koso. You can destroy independent state institutions. Harass nipa ekasetia waban. Do whatever you like. Yet ya wope. Na we are wape candidates. Amana be catch re.
Yes.
Electorate ne say na onka decision makers. In fact, truly speaking, nipa mi na mi hu mo MP ko na ko metumi akasa. Kene Japan and Kwabene Japan. Yes. They were the only two who could genuinely say they were not, because at least Kene Japan in him say long before Obe declared the intention to contest, he was publicly expressing a disagreement
with some government decisions.
Absolutely. The same with Kwabene Japan. In fact, Kwabene Japan, they started when Akufo-Addo was then flag bearer.
Yes.
Good. So they can legitimately say yes, me a member of MPP, but I disagree, and this is a record.
But with what the vice president said and how or presenting a narrative, you know, say number one, fiscal policy, finance minister, monetary policy, Bank of Ghana, and then a governor. He was specifically put in charge of leading government digitalization agenda. And a man a record in that sector and what he's done.
First of all, that record is bogus. I would systematically demolish that claim. In fact, I have a 20-minute video on my Facebook wall. If you are interested, you should listen to it. In addition to that, there's an article, Dr. Manibu Ama.
I've read your Manibu Ama
article.
Yes.
Who will to me read this article? No, in fact, as I'm about American seriously. There are specific untruths I can. But let me come back to as some worker said.
Yes.
Obi, him fana Akufo-Addo Kwaka say or the digitalization share by Onyansa. It kind of say you agree. I also agree. Say about Benwa, the president has ultimate responsibility.
Sure.
On na ban ye
Sure.
The Obama Obi a no a delegated functional responsibility.
Sure.
Because of that, only by adrian say, Onono Kasa, it represents the policy of the government. Okasa, it supersedes anybody's voice. It's the Akufo-Addo Bekano. Emuodu, said the SND about Umia Beka, SND Miracles Beka, or anybody else in the MPP. Into a then Akufo-Addo aka about who is managing the economy. If 2008, 2012, 2016, it is a matter of fact. Say Nana Akufo-Addo aka kire yen say senti okofa aba omiaba ene say opese ono no behwe sikasem ma no. There are at least 4 videos eya dance die trodo e was asemi. It is not in dispute. Any kind of what business did Akufo-Addo have? Singling out Bawumia for sa role, no, if he didn't need him to do a specific job for him. Number 2, I have already told you, so because Akufo-Addo is the boss, no, what he also says is final. Akufo-Addo, in March of 2018, our parliament doing the State of the Nation address. State of the Nation address, no. It is the most important statement the president makes in the whole year. Or kind of parliament, a house of record. So it is a matter of record. 2018, now Akufo-Addo, while I can't do 2 years on a election, he didn't have any political motivation for praising Bawumia when there was no need for praise. Say, Bawumia call election, but in 2018, Bawumia was not candidate. Akufo-Addo can say, the economic management team, Bawumia, he described him as a brilliant, strong economist. Or seeing the leadership in the economic management team has risen to the occasion. Now, the results are beginning to show in the economy. So he was praising Bawumia for advice. Akufo-Addo's word is final in this government. If he says, Bawumia is in charge of the economy, that is the position. And what the why? Bawumia nankasa nenum nsem put this beyond debate. On my first 100 days in government, let's put aside the fact say in opposition, he led their charge on the why Anthony Akoto was a more experienced economist as in Bawumia. Professor Jambafo and many others, including Ken Ofriata Papa, Jones Ofriata, were seasoned economists. But Akufo-Addo singled out Bawumia and charged him with engaging the Ghanaian public on the MPP's economic positions. Bebwa. Bawumia Bemu, the first 100 days, on what to Nenumutu, and introduce the economic management team. Catch and say, they were a stellar cast, solid team. Na omo ache dollar no ejina ho ede na to fiase ede key na ma IGP meboa. Sabi me dituo si ba omi ati so so nkasa asem no. O say we have arrested the dollar and giving the key, locked it up and giving the keys to the IGP. And yes, I know kind.
Semper FM.
Obi. EMT. What is the full meaning?
The Economic Management Team.
Management. The same as advisory team. Listen to the nomenclature. Management. Economic Management Team. Baomi Ankasa, after 2017. Oko America Bochimem. Edumeko be from Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, and the platform say on make a Fagan economy. I'm going to quote his exact words. I say they have a first class, world class economic management team that meets every week to take decisions on the economy. Decisions on the economy. Osafo Mafo, he is a former finance minister. In many ways, in terms of the performance, there was no bebre. I say anything Baumia has done. And that is economy. On one say at the EMT no naba me 1,000. Na yemfa asedam mano for where we are now in terms of the economy. Obi. After all of this, Kofi Benson ne Baumia ni before to say nkwala. So they come and state these positions that do not make sense. Say onim economy no hwe and that he is only in an advisory capacity. Who commends an EMT head for merely giving advice? Say on my advice na yamfa akufa do na baso. Nti akufa do no say ba omiama na advice na wamfa obo na baso. Does he congratulate him for giving him advice that he has rebuffed? 2019 and 2020 Baumia LED EMT no in town hall meetings. First to project economic outcomes are no say papa and announce decisions. I want to announce the reversal of the benchmark revenue reduction of the benchmark
by 50%.
Mm-hmm. Was that advice or a decision? Samira Baumia or Baumia, there's a video of her in 2016 or cast a new chrono with him dear ewo sikasamuntu tuyanti and none of the best saw economy in ye. Nobody spoke about advice. It is a post facto rationalization if you I am submitting say to Omoka Sado is because the economy is in terrible state. And Baumia knows that he will suffer the consequences for it. And nunti na omo distance you free. Now say entesa Inti Abrana Baumia okotam 170 questions. Ekoma Misata say answer. And what capacity was he giving to Misata? If you know say vice president no or the creative piece ebo last of us sebi impedi asan fa so be any so send your government no ka kire na who could be some question here. Why did this Baumia go and ask the decision maker whoever he is?
FM
Intima omuzu say ye nkwala obi you and I know say economy no ko ye na nka Baumia will tell us that ono ne modern monti na akọ ne santie nto abama no it would have been his number one campaign item. So say Oma say Omani Sikasemwa. Let them not come and insult our intelligence on top. Yanyankwala. Sabi impediasa. Sabi impediasa. Momo Musa Nyanse Nigana fruit. It is bad enough to destroy the economy in the manner you have done. But it is insulting to try to run away, flee from responsibility. Apart from incompetence, there's a streak of cowardice and irresponsibility in this conversation. Say, who near Kukudra, you did to say, I'm in charge of this. Now, Enyama Akwacho, but I have capacity because of ABCD to resolve it. Leave the electorate to your friend saying, decide whether they will give you an opportunity despite the obvious failure. Why? Mama Baya now, doom so, Mama and the fire pliers go to travel me more. Obi. I know when I said, Mama, the doom so by. It is ignorant talk. Anybody who knows the history knows that I'm and Tasum. But he could have rebuffed criticism. But Ojitum say, I will take responsibility and get it done. And nothing I'm going to phone you about man or resolve it. In December of 2015, and now about Miaka say, or no, I'm going to solve doom so. Meanwhile, the same person, or better not joy from studio, I'm a could you answer and say doom so as well. Or say, oh, we should not give credit to Mahama if it is solved. On the matter of who is in charge of the economy, I have given you 5 reasons why some about me can no credit. As some are bent air can no credit. As some are MPP propaganda is no credit. It is a fact that the president is the boss. But President Akufo-Addo Ankasa, I'm a young. The person he has put in charge. So digitalization idea way a afterthought. Me, I was deputy minister for communications. Almost everything that is done in that space never fall under him. Even me go to me with these things. Since here we done fee economy no akọ digitalization. So him say economy in here. If the economy was good, it would be his trump card in this election, without a question. Obi, number 2. I am before ka. And say the previous excuse na COVID na the friends.
Sure. Russia, Ukraine war.
And the third one about me is not in charge never. I dismiss those excuses too.
The global pandemic and the war in Ukraine. There's a fact that
there's a global pandemic. There's a fact that there's a war in Ukraine. Fact for Ghana, Ukraine trade partners.
But we buy wheat, flour, and all those things from Ukraine.
From other parties. The point is that there's no country in this world that one can say COVID not affecting, including countries in West Africa. And yeah, COVID in tea and the economy no eguye. It was irresponsible, politically motivated decisions, elections-related decisions. Because Cote d'Ivoire, we managed COVID better than Italy, US, Obi. Or the capacity
in
that
terms
the
of
US,
the decisions.
What is it? What decisions? The capacity that US needs, will be in terms of healthcare. Say, Nipa 1 million who Ghana, our country will collapse if what happened in Italy and the US comes here. Shock absorbers of money, you be. In this assembly, until let us compare ourselves to our peers. Cote d'Ivoire, they had lower infection rates, lower deaths. And so, in terms of figures, evidence there, you can say, extrapolate that they manage it better than us. Yet, Cote d'Ivoire economy, no, they are nowhere near the turmoil we are in. What can we see? Your friend saying IMF. Mr. President Kufuor call IMF under his tenure. Now, you COVID now. The 17 previous times I call IMF and the latest one, and you COVID now. So, an IMF decision is not coterminous with COVID outbreak. A regular thing like economies here over time when they are in some form of defense, they need some form of assistance. The true situation is that in 2020, election year, no, they overspent. The deficit, no, and now Bamiaka said deficit near 10%. It was almost 15%. In fact, Okoshe can offer Ankasa the budget review year in July of 2020, up again at 11%. They did close to 15%. Into COVID and Ukraine cannot be blamed for their cost. A managerial irresponsibility, fiscal indiscipline, the desire to win elections. Into almost say sika basa. Ye whom dear Felicia Tete Ekachere or Northern region. Sasika no mtesema, where did they get it from? Omuma Obia 170,000, 100,000. Where did they get the money from? SNS and the Sikama amount for some of the mom loans. People who have not even solicited for a little more musica. Where did you think it was going to end us? Almost sorry, and your first term, no, we did so well. Major Sammy who can say, your friend saying, glory days. Obi, young and this day, we didn't have a first term. It is only people in your first term. Now, what are the so-called glorious days of the first term, economic wise? Growth of 7%. Your friend saying deficit of 7%. And on the glory days, the best economic period in about 40 years of Ghana's history, between 2010 and 2012. You see, I say book no lie. Obi, in 2012, your growth was 9.2%. Bigger than the biggest MPP growth, 8%. I know it was forecast by the World Bank, said because of additional oil fields have been, we will get it. In fact, we call Ghana's Statistical Service website is here. We share economic out things for 2018. They stated said there was an 80% growth in oil production. And when a man growth rate no course. In 2010, we grew by almost 8%. In 2011, the 14.4%. Non-oil growth was half, 7% of that figure. 2012, by 9.2%. 2012, now your debt to GDP ratio was under 50%. Now see the 1.8 to $1. Inflation for 33 months continuous. Now a single digit. Your public debt now a more 40 billion Ghana cedis. Your debt to GDP ratio now a new 50%. How do you compare the outcomes of 2017 to 2020 to this and tell me their glory days? Unfortunately, more journalists so you don't question them. And now, to a man for trim, boasting with mediocre outcomes. And I'm to say about me, I say, Mama catch and say, or catch say the meat is down to the bone. 2016. So that's when you know correct. Okay, January 5th, 2013.
Okay.
He could only have been reporting on 2012 figures. 2012 figures, these figures, do they show an economy in distress? He was speaking in relation to single spine a day unforeseen burden, because President Kufuor Jamaye, without any preparation, without any preamble, 1 year into 2 years, any BFI. That is what President Mama was speaking about. But in terms of economic output, figures in how can Baumia look at these figures and tell me, say, we left an economy that was in tatters? In fact, even 2016, and now so I can say we left a deficit of 8.4% in 2016, and also no credit. It's a blatant lie. Obi OTMBia can go to the Ghana Statistical Service website. And the compute economic data. Deficit, my mention is calculating a difference between your revenue and expenditure expressed as a percentage of GDP. Who calculate a fact? Deficit for 2016 now a 13.92 billion Ghana cedis. Your GDP for 2016 now a 215 billion Ghana cedis. Where your percentage calculation now is 6.5%. It's Bamiaka say deficit for 2016 a 8.4%. It is a blatant lie on Kano credit. Obi, your debt to GDP ratio for 2016, it was 56%. Your public debt, Babiana Nkasa no koye public lectures and showed it on events and projections. Or the projector, a project go war, Central University. Now a 120 billion. Exchange rates, now a 4 cities, basically 4.2, let's say 4.2. Interest rates was around 23-24%. I could go on and on. Obia Obefa, the economic indicators, and at least end of 2023, our Obeka will say that economy was better than 2016, or your true for. He is peddling a blatant lie. Obi, your debt to GDP ratio last year 104%. Ekani dear was 600 billion. Even that one, it was without SOE debt, any contingent liabilities. Exchange rates, no, in November 2022, it could do 17 cedis to $1. If he 6 cedis to $1 in 2022, January, to 17 cedis to $1. And no was the most catastrophic collapse in our currency. In fact, me, based on my knowledge of Ghana's political terrain, I can tell you that the people who have decided to vote against the MPP, they made their decision in that month because of the extreme hardships that they bring
in 2022
yes.
December.
Yes. In fact, Kenya Japan shares the same view. Obi, inflation. It could do 54%, which was hyperinflation. If exchange rates, no, it was because they unilaterally decided, say, and now stabilize it. So they actually comparing that to President Mama na Otia external debts.
Asempa FM.
The worst economic outcome in Ghana's history. A sad debt default in Yan saying. Say yen to me to Yaka. Baumia in 2016 no in a platform so S and say yen B minus credit rating ya more home modern. Yeah, the default yentumi ntia yeka omo wie no say bondholders because of that inti sika is on them no fam omo inti omo ye debt restructuring as a financial haircut ama nipa about 1.3 million ho ekodim me no ka say omo pa external creditors che so omo fa eka omo de no omo mpene ma ye debt restructuring ama no so kra no as of now no omo say omo reach agreement but we don't know the final defense ya e be fi mo aba obi ahwe sa economic outcomes no catch you say they have been better than Mahamadia. The person is lying. Or didn't draw. It is a way the person put in charge of the economy.
Wrap up for me.
We are the person put in charge of this economy. Now, these are your outcomes, sir. Now, catch them say Ghana for Beshe we against the person who has a much better record, even as vice president and head of the economic management team. Then you are deceiving yourself. Obi, final point. And so the other points I will make when I come back. Okay? And now about me, I say, Ombe created 2.1 million jobs. Again, I have a video I'm here. Oh, Metro TV, Good Morning Ghana. It's on Facebook. People can watch it. But when him say, in February 2021, Minister for Employment, if I don't know now, a year employment figures no Oshesho, because he is directly in charge of employment. Okwa vetting February 2021. Okachre vetting committee and they say Ome created 3 million jobs in their first term. 3 million jobs. This is February 2021. Minister for Employment. The same Minister for Employment, 15th September last year, yeah. Okachre Ghana for say Ome created 5.3 million jobs. Baumia 27th April 2023. Say Omo created 2.5 million jobs. And then also Omo created 2.1 million jobs. Obi say MP before created 2.1 million jobs. I can assure you that based on available data, there will be no unemployment. In fact, in Caribbean deficit, there's a month for fear ebeyebi. Let me show you the evidence. Ghana Living Standard Survey 2012. Omo can say na unemployment figures in terms of Nipo Makanya 1,027,000.
That's for 2012.
2012.
Okay.
2021, the most recent population census, the figure was 1.551 million. Who
are willing to work
between 15. Omo 15 years.
Yes.
They are eligible for employment. If you've created 2.1 million jobs, and only 2 years ago or so, about 1.5 million people and then there will be a deficit of around 450,000. I also a company per baby. Those figures cannot be true.
But on my source say the SNIT data, well, those are verifiable. So
private employment no mean.
Sure.
Well, look at your interest rate. Almost 40% a few months ago. Share the dollar. Baby, how conducive would that be for businesses to expand and even employ people? Abino directly, what have you done to ensure employment to that extent? Even sir 1.2 or said or see if you abino, where is the source? Obama figures, that's all. Now so you have 50 employees. How do I verify that? I'm challenging you should produce the names and designations of those people and where they work.
Those who have been employed?
Yes, because you see, when compared against other figures given by, unless your attempt at the employment minister is wasting our time. He is the man directly in charge of employment. Or say, my 5.3 million. Dr. Akoto 3 years old.
Yes.
Also, I believe say planning for food and jobs. Almost that's about almost do say nipa 5 and 8 more. A year 20. That is employment of 7,050 people, 750,000 people. How do we allow such deception? To be honest with you,
very well.
Baumia, he does not stand a chance. So I must say.
In 2024.
Because of his abysmal performance. Now, abysmal performance no crano and no nanching. The latest attempt to insult the intelligence of Ghanaians and create the impression say the akosun no onim hwehwe. Now, medemanu besi mesrawo. Look at this bit about say he will scrap some taxes. Obi, you and I know we 11 1 or 2 others fewer. Most of the recent taxes, about 40 of them on the about since 2017. Recent ones on the buy are IMF conditionalities. Baumia, IMF, we know the only person who is on record, at least his public statement showed opposition to the IMF finance minister. Mebwa. He insisted and said he didn't think we should go to IMF. He stated it publicly. Ne deputy John Kumaso can be. I'm a man for cry, didn't know financing. Baumia never told anybody say he was opposed to the IMF. In fact, the IMF team we know for a fact so much needing. It's we are head of economic management team. Also to cabinet. You see, I almost say EMT no, they are only an advisor to cabinet. Ministers are what EMT no, so they are also cabinet ministers. Wrong. Into who we are, you go and report to yourself again in cabinet. Where is the evidence of any dissent whatsoever on any government policy?
On any government policy
in the last 7 years. Now, president, you tell us that you are opposed to this, you are opposed to that. E-levy, Mr. E-levy.
We'll come back and then we'll look at Neoma Afio say or
exactly.
when
so
given
really,
the opportunity.
Look.
It may mean miracles. I'll come back.
Credibility.
Very well.
In some work, he told us, say, they will do differently. If you move the debt from 120 billion to 600 billion, why are they? Who will believe you if you tell me anything again?
Medase. I'll come back to you, Felix. Ekosiisen 94.7 FM. The fellow Squatcho for say a former deputy communications minister and a parliamentary candidate ma NDC Wabra Sebu Kwaman Kese and one of the 8 to the former president John Dramani Mahama. Miracles are quite about a poem to say.
Obi, so
yes. Yeah, Danyamia say.
Ja, Ohesenia. If you and Dr. Babud Baumia, wouldn't be say we were and this for skin Nasia. Wow, to say Omunine. See, me Benina, Namity fellas, we better than Tina. You can clearly see, say, this is a political party that was empty in government, and then they still remain empty in opposition.
But social reactions to the speech and across the border, a positive, Mamu.
Absolutely. You see, the people of Ghana have learned their lessons. The Ekos were almost fear lessons. All this blabbing, you know, you won't be there. Their fellas here knew. Their ancestors in the year 2007 2008. Fellas' ancestors. They did it NDC for. They did the same thing in 2008. When they took over in 2009, by the time they were living in 2016, this country was on its knees. The boss. What's your kana Baumia, the boss. For the entire 4 years, the boss by a president, Obi. 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, not even a single year new improvement in our economy. In fact, each of the years got worse until we went to IMF. He's right. Say, between 2000 and comparatively, so compare 2010 to 2012
yes.
to Omomuhua, he's right. Under Professor Mills, for almost about Obi, I think about 3 years continuous, Professor Mills recorded
single 2 years.
Yeah, about 2 years, right?
Yes.
Obi, ever since Professor Mills, may God keep his soul. Unfortunately, former President John Dramani Mahama, I do my wish and for each of the years, the economy go worse. Each of the years. Sure.
But he makes the point that 2 years stability, no. Now JM the head of the economic management.
JM, which year has JM ever been a head of economic management team?
President Mills,
vice president. President Mills economic management when the members of the economic management team. When President Mills was in power, did you ever hear say President Mills economic management team where they head now when they members? In fact, you interviewed a friend and saying Dr. Dufo. Didn't he tell you that John Mahama wasn't the head of any economic management team? He told you here in this seat. The video is still online. So what are you talking about? Another be a fellow back question. But you interviewed the finance minister under Professor Mills.
Yes.
The man who steered affairs under Professor Mills, who told you say John Mahama was never head of any management team. He was never a member of any economic management team in the first place. And you are here saying Felix. But he's lying. Before you interviewed him here, the video, I even shared it. Wasn't before the finance minister under John Mahama. Didn't you interview before during his flag bearership way? Didn't he tell you, said John Mahama was never
Asempa FM.
And never any head of any economic management. In fact, Professor Mills and Bresso, what's the economic management? What's here? Did you hear it? And let me digress. And then you want some count. You see, this time, we are not like our ancestors. So, people for the new generation, Gen Z, we are not like our ancestors who would clear the path for you. Obi, it is a fact. A matter of fact to say, John Mahama was vice president who was never anywhere close to the management of the economy. Then eventually in 2012, unfortunately we lost the president. And then the vice president came to tell us, oh, maybe vice president, Mr. Mo, Madaroma, Momamin Tuasu, Monsieur, maybe, I just say, and fellas, and some say, and some say, and they talk about John Mahama. Obi, the kind of economy John Mahama ever saw as president in 2010. Now, ABC 2012, now inflation now about 8.8. 2013, your mama they call 13.5. 2014, or the inflation call 17. 2015, or the call 17.7. 2016, or the call 15.4. Whatever the case is, the inflation that your mama inherited in 2012 was between 8% to 9%. Ever since he became president, for each of the years that John Mahama was president, inflation got worse. Not a single time in Mahama's presidency, not even 1 year in Mahama's presidency, to me, the inflation ever under control. In fact, inflation climbed from single digits to 13.5 to 17 to 17.7 to 15.4. Bam, any educator IMF. Not even a single moment in his life as a president can he put his chest out and say, Ghana for me bedi or man penino. I didn't miss someone and I'm with the mammy and me ye be paying. Me to be a bibi papa ba pay. And based on that, into the motion so yeah they enter Obama. Obi. So the GDP no normally ya kai empesa ye de oil de no krabe de. E be kan hwe 2012 Ghana's GDP with oil was about 8.42%. Without oil was about 7.83%. 2012. And this is the economy. John Mahama ebeji ya obeye president. Nti me fa say 8.42, 7.83. 2013, or the cost 7.24 with oil, or the cost 6.69 without oil. Obi, 2 years down the line, just 2 years down the line of John Mahama becoming president. Now we're moving Ghana's GDP now. It was growing at 8.42%, or they call 2.86, 2.49 in 2014. 2.86 with oil, 2.49 without oil. In 2014, just 2 years. Just 2 years. 2015, it's also take off him, equal 2.12, 2.13. Obi, throughout the man's period in office as president, the economy went into turbulence. This is a matter of fact, too. Not a single indicator under John Mahama as president did we see any single improvement in our economy. It was as a result of shambolic management of the economy in a sikakra of the better fuel, diesel, a good generator, a power electricity American Union. Or almost of you. So let me tell you, when we were in opposition, we were constantly on record telling you, say, the crisis that we found ourselves in Ghana had nothing to do with capacity, any generation. It has never been. Because all they did was that Omo said just so eco-free generators. Are you now aware? Are you now aware? Power purchasing agreement and you're free eco-free. It was easy. They went out there during the crisis, told people say munim yepekania mumbesi baye yebetua ne kakrakra yepekania mumbesi baye yebetua obi almost see generators no bebre power plants no bebre across the country, and it was easy because they were not paying for it. To the extent that do baby no obi na capacity no kra power plants no kra no power generator no kra broso etomu to besi ho afa oma to besi wa isa odo usika akoto BMW what to car na wie no second nankasa ntumi nsoro no pa yedai enko ntumi mfa nsuo ngumu yedai enfa nkwa bonten. You need to buy fuel into the BMW now odo usika kwa yedai akoton we mpo de because what bon wa say we economy na say nti no when yes kekra nkoto ade no uko free ye a yeguso yetu anka yeguso tu anka yentu anwie ye uko free ni nyina aba yeguso tu anka yentu anwie ye wo de ba wie no fuel a wo de be go power nim no bi unni sika wo de beto. And that is the reason why we slept in darkness for 2 years. The only reason why we slept in darkness in this country was that this incompetent NDC, they are blabbing, talking plenty. When they had power, they couldn't do anything. No? When they had the chance, all they did was that in our crisis moment, no, omuko free power ni beguho. Omuko free buy and obi. Aka, I'm friend saying, fuel on the tree. Fuel, war would be good generators in normal power electricity obi. Just because of fuel, that is why we slept in darkness.
But by the time, no, without any addition of generation capacity, no, anchor resolution of the problem, Obi, it was money was a problem, and then you see, we are not foolish. Yes,
we are not foolish.
Yeah.
If you go and borrow somebody's vehicle to your house, and it doesn't mean that when you're home, obi car, ebe si ufia, and not just when you're home. And so Obi, but no way fine pamwa. Into open BMW na make one sem. Oba no, what wo? Open kwa be for so obe to kwaye free koko memli akọ Madina. Ina oba me ho. Ina me de me BMW no FM wo. Ina si wo fie. Afi wo so no pa. E kwan be na BMW no be for so do akọ Madina wo se ma solve problem no. Nya sabe no wo. Obi asema wo kan pay. Wei akola kra ka che no be die di. E se wo tu kwan kọ Madina. E se wo nya car na wo de kọ Madina. First of all, who needs car de be to car no. Secondly, who needs car so de be to fuel. Ne mom me ya wunu ya me ya wadanfo into ba me ho se me fa me car ne mfemo e na me de car ne femo car ne be si fie no afi osoro no pa sika o de beto diesel egubu akomade na wunya we se ma solve problem no. Which kind of childish a friend is saying explanation is this? We se ma solve problem no. Eti car ne be si wona afi ano pe bia sorry a na wo hwe car nanim enso wa ketre fie on to me komade na no we ye ka kire akwala ban. That is the image you are painting for the people of Ghana. We you catch akola bay. For 2 good years. And I had the capacity buy, and the generators buy, and the generators buy. Obi, for 2 good years. For 2 good years. You couldn't give us power. Only for you to leave power. Now there is electricity. You said we solved it. We solved it. You only managed to solve the electricity crisis when you left power. Fitimra NDC fear abamu ekoye. When we say energy crisis wa my way. So how come the entire period we had a crisis and they were in power, we never had that kind of energy crisis? Doom so. What kind of childish explanation is this? Obi, asema make about doom so many bresamo. These guys they take us for granted. The NDC take the whole country for granted.
Tone down, Kaka.
See, Obi,
childish and this
Obi, because Obi in fact, some factories were converted into churches. And before Edda, your friend said theater, so I was surgery room near Doom Kanea, near the torchlight. Obi, didn't you see it? People's education got truncated because they couldn't have energy to study. This is the kind of ayakayaka you have the mouth to still be talking. On ferry. Let's
move on to other.
The fact of the matter is that John Mahama as president was symbolic. He was incompetent, and the figures are here. His entire 4 years in office, he took this country down the drain. Or inherited here, and the Ojama Obi. It was a complete mess. And here former, and here sika former, sika kakro mudubo akwaman Obi. Oji fi omunsem. Onye ni bi wo ha obi wo ha ne fie hu. Akoda na wie school no. Ekoy obefa so de akoda na be ko next level kwa na odwe ho. Enti teacher training ni nursing training kale last time me catch wo ha se me when I completed senior high school I me twa me wase nyina me ko do fie no. My grandfather so we dey PTC be fa street. Because PTC dey there. Onim se wo kwa o sika sem ni ade de wo benya bi. Ebi mu kura ho a obi e ya college ni mu sika no ko no mo do toto mo hu no ma no wie school a o de siesie ni dem. Uba no be different here for mansem. Here for market fee. Obi, you sat in office as president for 4 years. Every year you were churning out 135,000 Ghanaian children. Omuntu minye school mun kwan enko because of nyoma mienu. Ebi mo owo phone diska. Any more obi school are dying is into me inform Okwapman school and the number of students almost for Okwapman school are double. And think I know 1,000 today they over 2,000. And the reason is simple. Okwapman today can even pick 3,000 if they have additional infrastructure. The reason was that throughout the entire 4 years of John Dramani Mahama, the schools did not have infrastructure. And do you know what he decided to do? They decided yes, and say, Obesi school daya dormitory bianca or Asasewa Kwan so 2 kilometers away from town. That nobody can go to the school till date. Because 2 kilometers from town, the community cannot access it every day because only a day students. That is the reality. That is the man's scorecard. By the time you were leaving office, businesses had collapsed. Businesses were stressed. Whoa! In the year 2015-2016, Obi, I'm sure you remember, public sector workers here, Juma 1 year. You bet you okay, you see into me training, you bet you 3 months. Okay. I'm sure you remember. Public sector workers. Me, I have people in my household who were affected. Oh, yeah, Juma 1 year. You bet you okay, you see into me training, you're 3 months. That is your scorecard. You were president before. You have been in that seat before. Why couldn't you do these things when you were in power? John Mahama, His Excellency, any NDC for say we have forgotten. Not to digress. Andra, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and the Ghana for Ekosiisen, Edim Komo. Enobi, what's here, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Komodi, and DNS and Akasanisuko, and Ghana for reacting now. I'm not surprised saying this for a room skin and Omo Kikimu, because the man is futuristic. Ne level of appreciation of the Ghana issue and the Ghana matter is one that is unmatched. He is not on yet the typical leader on Nama Otieti in some Otese Kotoko Fashias or Semi Kotoko. Otese blasters are bought Asha one or say blasters here, the Omulus was a major for. He's not that kind of leader. And he took us on a journey of where we have come from as a country. Baby Ayaba Babedru. Challenges I encounter during the period of our last 8 years of trying to revolutionize, how he believes, say, as a person, as a leader, he will be able to take us to the next chapter. Let me put it on record, say, sir, issue of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is trying to disassociate himself from Nanadono. He has never said that anywhere. Facebook.
From the economy and the EMT,
He has never said it anywhere. Nowhere has Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia disassociated himself from this government or from the EMT. He never said that anywhere.
And from the kind of EMT making that deduction or that inference.
Copy of everything he said here verbatim. There is no way you make that deduction.
Okay.
Yeah, but panica say.
Okay.
Mejidi say Nana Don Kweku Fadwa ban ye buy no. Ya bomodin aye no bebre. Into Bekaya Obi for almost 45 minutes of his speech, beginning of his speech, was Nanado and his achievements. It was Nanado and the achievement of this government. And he didn't just end there. He even went on to even enumerate the challenges of the government. How do you deduct from this? So, I enumerate all the successes and challenges. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, let me put it on record. And I heard some also say it. He has never, ever, anywhere said, Obi. Nana Adudankwa Ekufuado, even in his worst moment, has provided a better environment for the people of Ghana than John Mahama did when he was president. Obi, into can you mention just one thing or two things about John Dramani Mahama as president? What the Beka, What the Baba? Obi, on my penny BS school dying. So me, if I am having debates on politics, I don't even like to go to infrastructure because I know the politics there will be in. But Obi, can you relate John Mahama with? Oman penny for the national health insurance and free maternal care school feeding program by Mboa. na the Beka Mahama. Nana Don Kwekufado, Anya Shekrano, or the free senior high school about Ghana from being Obi to make us say, me were Ghana half an engine to Miko school. Obi, what can you remember John Dramani Mahama for as a president? Mention one thing. And then when you finish, you find a sector by sector. tell me one thing you can remember John Dramani Mahama for. The man was shambolic. He was completely a failure. And what
for the 4 years he was president?
Mention one. Now me the figures no crama. For the 4 years he was president, everything wasn't. Opia bibia say ya na edukowura. Your friend is saying IMF. Everything is here. When you America, everything is here. Everything wasn't. Every single thing where me wo kura bibia wa ha. Me to be the nyina ama. Me kura GDP with oil, GDP without oil, per capita income, inflation, exchange rate, me kura forex reserve, import cover, debt to GDP, credit rating, CDP. Obi me kura bibia from 1992 to 2023 Everything, every single thing. Mahama didn't sakai wa my way more say no. Until we have not forgotten. You're in fear. Dear Dr. Baumia can say. You should be free pa you bet 2 years in 2017. Any acquire force war you meander round all the challenges you do 2020 obi. Every single thing was on a positive tangent until we met that global pandemic COVID. In the year 2018, that's 2017, right? Obi 2017. Yafa GDP no from 3.37, okay, with oil. They be a NDC for 3.37 growth with oil. You do call 8.13. 8.13. Yafa inflation from 15.14. You do call 11.8.
As at year,
2017. 2018 you do call 9.4. 2018 you do call 7.9. And at 2020 I call 10.4. Obi, look at the share MPP in NDC, and I want you to pay very close attention. Pay close attention to John Mahama's presidency in the first 4 years, and then MPP's presidency in the first 4 years. Obi, inflation of a free single digits, and I call 13.5, and I call short to 17%, and I sign Western year to 17.7%, and I sign Quiet to 15.4%. Yang, Yatif 11.8, you had confirm 9.4, you had 7.9, and then we encountered COVID. Obi, do you know one reason why Ghanaians on the street are saying they don't want Mahama back? Because Mahama's record is obvious. Once he takes over the country, he worsens it. What it means is that even in our worst situation, if you give it to Mahama, it will even get worse. Because that is his record. He doesn't show any single positive indicator in any aspect in the economy. It is here. It is on the BOG website. I didn't conjure it. Obi, if today we are struggling with an inflation of 23%, then you can imagine what would happen under John Dramani Mahama.
And you are saying
the
assessment was a Ghana for Yemono, Yanyan from 2017 to 2020.
Because no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Even 2021 to now, the assessment, even yesterday, Dr. Mahmoud Bamiaka was saying, listen, if you look at the facts that we've gone through the West, just like all other countries are going through, and how we've been able to change the course and we are on a positive tangent. Clearly, no, there are certain things that the government is putting in place to bring some improvements into our economy. The question is, if you hand over such an economy that is trying to recover from a global pandemic to John Dramani Mahama, who has a record of worsening the situation, how is he going to fare? That is the biggest question everybody's. And you see, they are dangerous crime. This man, John Dramani Mahama, if we unfortunately hand over this country to him, is going to plunge this country into sudden gloom. As we speak today, all other countries are struggling. Everybody is trying to recover. Mention one country that is not trying to recover. Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire, until they got to 7% inflation, we're doing under 1%. Cote d'Ivoire. So today you may quote Cote d'Ivoire to be 7-9%. But
that's growth and I say inflation.
No, inflation. They used to be lower. UK, they are doing 40% high. 2022, was it 2022? 2022. Within 6 months, UK changed prime ministers about 3. United States of America, for the first time in 40 years, we're struggling with a 40-year-old inflation. And the fact is that, it's not the NDC's view, and their spin and propaganda. The fact is that something that has never happened in the last 120 years, since the Spanish flu, happened to the world in the year 2020. Container and he had turned about $1,200. He did China bagana no. In the year 2020, a kwaya kopem $13,000. Obi yenu kroma na ne top mask back 50 cedis. Yenu kroma ina ne top face shield. I turn 11 cedi. Your top back 120 Ghana cedi. thermometer gun yɛne kuroma na ɛtɔ baako 2,000 to 2,500 Ghana cedis. So the global supply chain was disrupted. Why do you think we should allow the NDC to run away from that fact? And the question you should be asking them is, what would they have done if they had encountered that challenge to ensure, say, the situation would have been different from it is today? Even to date, they are still struggling to even come up with one policy. And that, my friend, is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia Kasai. He has espoused 70 policies under 20 pillars. And now, I say,
I have a vision.
Yeah, 70 alternative. And yes, Krampono, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, your candidate has been there. John Dramani Mahama has been candidate since March 2023. May 2023. Bepe Mone. Ghana Nibia is unable to relate with what he would do. Opa
24-hour economy.
Opa street this one. Omukai 24-hour economy and Tiasia Biedim. Koko Meme Omada. Eyana Yeduma. Koko Meme Wabaha Madada. Obi, Koko Meme Tiptoe Lid, Wakwa Madada. Osu Oxford Street, Wakwa Omadada. Ko Tiptoe Lane boys, when I go be someone say, Omo, Oba ho Tiptoe Lane and a drawer. Opa say repair phone, I want to be repair. Ko Bantama High Street and Koshe. Metitema. Obi, as we speak, about 6, there are people whose for bus are called for Mufifie, about Mabaye Juma overnight. A chanopa, Omubekofie, no more Mupon and Jews right day. Ako, Kotakwade industrial area, Ko Kumasi industrial area, Ko Lagos Avenue, and ne Opa Kosi, Akonya or Lagos Avenue, or East Legon. Nothing I want to say, Ubenso Biada, Omoton Chinam. Omoton so, Omoton watch the whole night, Copem Tama Diabetes. Obi, there are pharmacy shops in Ghana here who are selling 24 hours. We have always said 24 hours is not a policy you introduce. It is a consequence of a policy.
That's not fair.
That's not fair. 24 hours, it is a consequence of a policy. Masadodo. So Masadodo,
and yeah, you can make your point without using this.
Masa, that's what you don't understand. Masa, a consequence of a policy. Obi, say, we make sure say nipa dodo na etumi nya sika ehwo mo botom ewo mantemu bi mu na omutumi nya ahoto a osoro na jo na bot 12 do pe wacha to be kwakoto enti bebi a memete ewo Lakeside Estate no se me feel say anaju bia nipa dodo pe wacha to a enye aban na be ka chem se nchegina menton wachi me the watching ba be siwo because the power be den abeton na wo ka say 24-hour policy I will introduce it wo di to na be sibiti say me for watching nko siwo no bi ameton ma hwan wo ba beto akọ Jubilee House ana it clearly shows that they are clueless and that for the entire 8 years in opposition they still haven't learned anything. And Obi is a very serious matter. Ghana finds itself at a very dangerous position right now. Obi say yama ni anda ho. We are going to regret even worse than we did in 2016. Because in 2007 and 2008, you remember very well, these same people were brandishing fake news, fake bank statements. President Kufuor, and then they do my 4-year conform bank statement in here. Now, President Kufuor Krano, young to a Bentiana by because of our mighty, of our Nigirichi, and a mark or one for a 10 Ebu Santa for Ghanaians believed them and voted for them. Obi, the consequence is what we experienced. And now me no say Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia the 70 policies aba or say or no so oba be your mampani a oba make sure say tax regime no oba revolutionize no on the good for the nkomo ansendra okasa or say spare pass na ye kra efia brochi ba no oba in flat rate or say or no he believes that where the world is moving towards in the future no it's a world that Ghana needs to prepare for. Artificial intelligence, digitalization, and he believes that digitalization is going to be the bedrock of our economy going into the future. In his view, digital platforms should not be taxed into no obey mampenia obey ye free ho. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia ama niema makom
obey e-levy no you
yes,
mean
e-levy obey ye free ho.
Ben Nkofo criticizes say he was part of that decision into Adena o claim saint CC
it is the worst of thinking that will be a bedroom sir. I'm going to say yeti oh say your friend is Dominic in a show program now. Ebienne anka ye many fellas na opese ye ba. Nka wunya ya ebio nipa for the bed e bebe ne. Mo kwatra ase no wo Kwaku Jackson Obi production team wehia. Almost there be a Felix any miracles the bed e beba. Nti Felix miracles aba betina se. Na ye di nkomo. Wo betina air
No, maybe I'll give you time.
No.
I think you have to be fair.
I am very fair.
But why are you the one
very
keeping
fair.
it?
Yes, but
Miracles, relax. Let me handle that.
Now, but I say,
that's 15 minutes.
Never 15. Never 15.
How many minutes I do?
First, miracle patcho.
But he's distracting me.
I'll give you. I'll give you time. I get you.
It's unfair.
Now we can about. Now me hear any powerful front na do me say. Yen na ya agree say mu me no mumra. Into to aso.
Obi. Into we better console de chia. It is not up to you to come and announce to your listeners and say, "Media nka ye fellas ni miracles na me pe." Nemo company from. Yours is to do what the production has agreed to do.
Yeah, I agree.
You are be a friend of collective responsibility.
Sure.
Any ultimate responsibility.
Sure.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is a vice president in the government. There is nowhere in the law that gives Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia any mandate to take any decision, apart from the fact that Mbranda say Obe to be a chairman of police council. Specific activities are Mbranda man who quite say how they or no call it short, they are itemized in the law. Yes. Otherwise the law is clear. Ejuma mampeni betiama will say you know why they now why.
That's true.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has also stated clearly. He stated clearly yesterday. So listen, he was indeed, and he still remains the head of economic management team. And he believed that as head of economic management team, he and the economic management team gave the government sound advices.
Okay.
And where at all do you fault Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia by saying, "Say, me vice president, no, me on man penina many year jumano, si pay e-levy, but maybe the assembly on man penia, me for e-levy, but how is that a problem? How is that an issue? How is that a big deal? Is he the president?" And then I say, "Ebia Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Nkobe Felisofo Kwachi Minister for Communication. Does he have capacity to do that?"
And
yes,
no,
because
so on your man
exactly. So this is just pure. It's just a simple pedestrian understanding.
The man say, "Me back and no share other celebrity."
As we say this, one of the things that we are not going to let the NDC go off in this election is say, "Yeah, 7 taba."
Okay.
Instead of just doing Bawumia. Because so far, Niema Miansana Mate 24 economy, which is just a bogus.
According to Miracles.
No, because it's already playing out.
Okay, the 24 hours.
Number 2, Mate and Kokomba also be Tom Manco fashion boxes on the poultry farms. And a second one, and
for the party for Juma or Cora, that was for the campaign to become.
No, but otherwise, what to be for now, they can't wait. And a third one, Mate, Black Stars also the local players, Bebo.
Oh, how?
That's what he
and only the only 3 are what apart from now won't any review of free SHS, won't a cancellation of licensure exams for teachers, won't say you've not heard them.
Obi Obi Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia can say Obi take specific actions. He didn't just say I will review. What is review? What would you do to free senior high school? That's what Ghanaians want to hear and vote for, because Obi review means that Ebi ameba me ye free ho. Ebi so ameba me this can be better day. So is that so we want to know what? Because see, immediately you begin to use review. It means that person be kind of crash.
Very well.
Because review you say what you
Miracles, I
say our reviewer. That is not a policy.
What is your
policy for senior high school education? That is what we want to know.
Ekosiisen so higher sempa 94.7 FM and Dennis Miracles Abuaje and Yaten kan Ekosiisen so ni lot and lot of messages fellows kwachio for so ewa mesan so akone ho na afei yato ankomo na ansa na no flumal triple action mo suffer from cold and flu, nasal congestion, sinus problems. Me pacho flumal triple action anyway drew. Action Pharmacy Limited. But once I do visa post pay account in the Mubia and Ubenya be ato all pharmacies in Ghana. Open do to a free Action Pharmacy was 0260 869 872 and a 0270 911 199. Now no one enkasa. DBS free roofing promotion is you go so better chance anyway near Fankobo dinosaur free. Into buy the roofing sheet and installation charge a baby install yama kama I no won't yes kabia. O on cry half free DBS it was 0240 844-444. Now only one into me in the encomo and plant-based milk papa Ghana nebi ajiatum cocoa milk, 100% plant-based milk. In fact, we are vegetarian now per milk and normal milk any soya free, dairy free, lactose free, sugar free, GMO free, and cholesterol free. A solid cocoa milk. All the varieties, or more 5: cocoa unsweetened, cocoa original, cocoa barista, and a cocoa super. And from modern collade about cocoa kits, Unyabia, FD Agiatum, Vegan Society of the UK Agiatum, NS Chemist, Ubenya Biwahato, Poku Trading Wedum, Little Georgia Community 2, Adom Square, opposite in Sawin Prison, Nina, and all leading supermarkets in Ghana, Ubenya Milk, Webiato 0247 0274 actually 440 180 0274 440 180. Felix, me pacho ma mintio.
Is it miracles are better than a hand tiny almost war and I will be a bomb will be to you. We were analyzed our one way choba analysis as a one who see food now. What did you be as a cassa?
But I was also on the two.
No, but no catch him say
I told him
no,
to
listen, no, tea. What's ha a catch will be so boom.
He withdrew.
Now, me what unless I warn it is so pedestrian. Oh, please walk us, and I didn't say anything. I didn't catch it. In fact, trouble analysis is trouble analysis. It simply means that it is too pedestrian.
What boy?
Miracles, man.
No, what boy?
Me pacho Felix meet you.
What's here? Can someone win him? You don't know what you are talking about. Obi, let me state it here. So Obi Akachra will say there was no EMT and a Milsa. Obwa. Okay? The day of the forecast, I was in the Joy FM studio. I openly confronted him and his spokesperson. I know that because my first foray to government, I'm a Hanatete, special assistant. So, Hanate,
no, a minister, right?
For trade.
Yeah, for trade.
She was a member of that committee. Until the others are now in the castle. The EMT was chaired by John Mahama. In fact,
but there was another advisory council,
yes,
right? Okay.
Advisory council, and you be before. Share. Emisata no yeding.
Vice president.
And
EMT chair, right?
But so himself, President Mama set up a presidential advisory group on economy. And no one casa President Mama the chair. Into the existence of an advisory council does not mean that there's no EMT.
Okay.
Into I'm placing it on record. Says I'm no boy. Miracles doesn't know what he's talking about. And I'm telling you, whoever your sources may say and no credit. May say and no credit. I've given you the fact. So the mere please.
Miracles say but the EMT meetings you attended na kwabena before we movie.
He was there. Oh, Master.
Okay.
In fact, EMT the way it's Rollins in the creative. The first chairman, Professor Mills. I don't know whether Aliu Mama was also the head of the EMT or whether they had one. Okay. Kwabena before the Bank of Ghana governor, the energy minister, agric minister, trade minister were all members of the EMT.
When Mahama chair.
Absolutely. It will be a catch or say he was not a head of EMT or Bua. I was in that government. I have been there. Our castle. Number 2. Sir analysis all year. John Mama I say Niema. You think I make say a trouble analysis no? Because we need a whole fine now we analysis. Now there are facts in front of you. Who need try would you know? Now my main was saying tia make us asem. Oh, do be biaka.
Or send the need a hon on your very.
Let me say so. You see, I cannot understand. Oh, me say do be biaka. Oh, kawa says okay. Me say facts go in him. Now what can someone pass more? We have to question your logic and your motive. Obi, what see Obi the inflation facing get up to 15.4%. It's in the money months any. What for inflation at some point from 8% up to 54%. What say we more more say the months amount. And that you are competent. Now you are the 15.4% when you're competent. Obi, sir, growth rate of 8% for 2017. It is their highest. Mama as head of EMT, the same position about me occupy now, only 14.4%. It is the highest in 40 years. Who's you be abon? The power bonding at 14.4, when you're 8. Who's winning, my dear? That's why I'm questioning your motive. What be exchange rate? You are saying? So, what the exchange rate feel 1.2, equal 4.2. Now, over 4.2 cost 17. Who winning, my dear? What kind of deliberate naivety is that?
No, but the 17 was an outlier.
What is an outlier? What is an outlier? Do you know the damage it did to industries? What did I say? I'm sorry, but saying factories became churches. Do you know how many companies collapsed because of our exchange rate movement? In any event, you refuse unilaterally. You decided that you will not service your debt in foreign exchange. Mama, what can I say? He had to service debt. So when you will make this analysis. You cannot compare yourself to Obi Otisa. Mama deficit to Jai 6.1. In the last 3 years, what scored double-digit deficit? We are now say below the line item. Now with the BSC, Mama never hid anything. With a deficit of 6.1, we think we win, my dear. Yet you took it to 15%.
Asempa FM.
Public debt, a car, DS of mine. Now it's now 120 billion. What's 1 more years? I know my bomuti, Omuni, my dear. Wuni, my dear, Ama, would it cost 600 million? Mahama never defaulted on debt payment. Wo, a month for Abo, Bossia was a mean chia. Into almost for my non copimo, a bang, Namoja bomb matter free. Wuni, my dear, Obo Homoding. Yet you have achieved a default. Won't mean Chiawaka. Patch was saying Fancho. You have plunged 1.3 million people into difficulty. Ama se come the boy Bosiano, one farm to watch the woman. What's Wuni, my dear? So where about them now with ye? Sanko for me, one in my dear. Nipa na Obon Bosian, Utiano, one, and in Nipa. A more bonny cluelessness, utter uselessness as a government in would default on your debts. Send a bear. When you be here a month worker, no me kusu. What's Wuni, my dear? You are arrogantly here calling people so mutiu. Wuni, my dear, this is your record. It is a war per record. You take inflation from 8% and take it to 54%. Hyperinflation. It's what call a gaso and a pa. Are there a ton of saying if you are better than assassin? Now, obey the fee 8%, I 15.4%. We say, Wuni, my dear. Number 3, sad doom so arguments no. Again, because say when a trouble analysis. Obi, Doomsaw ended on 24th December 2015. Doomsaw as load shedding. Now, someone walk say, na ye ni sika edit tofu. One case as a where did he hear it from? Wo flag bearer na na wuti a edit department one hono. Wa bet na joy FM agia to me say NDC solved it na my moya baso. Chairman Sabunsu in terms of standing the MPP when yepe. He has admitted that we resolved. In fact, Nana Poku, or energy expert, he was one of the people who contested Kojo Poku, sorry. He was one of the people who contested MPP elections. No, he expressed
interest,
but
no, he contested.
He contested the first
sure.
Good.
Sure.
He is on record to have told Ghanaians that we should give credit to Mama for solving them so. I've given you a specific data, load shedding, as an official program, AND. Obi, Osena Yakofa if you didn't buy and fuel in him. In any event, who will see thermal planter? It will take you a minimum of 3 years. If the 10 persists for 2 years, yeah, they are married in a car power buy no. Mpacho in soon you do mwana. And I was in fuel. Obi, maybe so. Into no, Yakofa if you did buy. Na ye ni scared to fuel. Mr. Ahia, any assessor goo, science money generated about 550 megawatts of power. I saw with them so now. Was it sand? And I had the asawa and the goom. In some cases, a trouble analysis. It is not properly considered. A pedestrian propaganda but not here. Me, I was in that government. Who named trouble Kokra Mencho? Into now, we Baumyako didn't trouble deficit matching. Intimacy, we at here for now with ya. I say, with ye no cre. Omoba Bemu, they complain of excess deficit, excess capacity. Meanwhile, yeti he mo de wapuka nti rebi ompe bia na omato omo pipe no meboa na wekutia kakra no mebie IPPs some no ka say there's a debt of 23 billion Ghana cedis in the energy sector. Meanwhile ye ko ye jawo gas planter ate ye fuel import so by $300 million ase jawo esla sika ye tua ho to a wo de be solve eye e car e bia wo de wo sa sector no. Meanwhile you've racked up debt of 23 billion. What's your air man who say woody my dear? Obi are not only SLDB any access to gas for 8 years and a war. has it be able to resolve a problem? When yet that doom some about a month ago. Because now want to mean to your wapoka. What the Nancy, your friend saying, sir, asogly. On better say they will shut down. What was it about? And yet, I can't know. Into one and it's you. Who will be a spoiled, pampered child? Who will be a we also be a childish analysis. Where they are toddler analysis now. Way, I didn't Ghana 2 weeks ago. More ne wapoka, and one issue statements on my two on my pipe. And I will patch or compare the big credible of no man. See, I make can be that anytime they feel like it, they will close their taps. I'm a yada doom so mubium. What the home better to be a first of all, he even Massa Doom so in year be 1984. Under Rollins between 97 and okay 98 work up near the Doom so Ghana. When I was a student at Kia University between 2006 and 2007, yeah, that Doom someone that Kufo. In fact, Kufuonya double the deficit in 2008. One of the explanations on mine is because of doing something, they had to scramble to get additional power generation. One my that doom some almost 1.5 years. Now Obi by a 2 years, there was your non-born who my dear. Meanwhile, in terms of power generation capacity, Obi and Medjuma Mama close to 3,000 megawatts of additional power. So doom so better year one kabaisa yedem. When you almost 800 billion Ghana cedis in terms of revenue near car, bossy our bonnet friends oil influence in Bibia. Yet won't to me ain't you Africa, Debbie Pebiano, omu to me Edu pipe. Mama, he got a total of 248 over 8 years. And yet or no, now to me a service external debt. Won't to me service. Yet was winning my dear. Again, let me put that nonsensical lie about say Obia Jubana Yentiana Kanu to rest. There was a section of teachers.
Yeah, teachers.
Because of a payroll audit. Almost say there was arrears and it had to be paid. But government thought that no, I say you should muka kranza. Inti arrears na you have about 3 months to subsist on whilst we clean up the system. It was that audit that had been done. And I'm sure so a declare arrears. It was never a government policy say yeah do can yen to your 3 months pay. So as we Minister of Finance said take watch much but because of choba analysis in pedestrian illogical propaganda you repeat it. What here can say yeah can say yakofo bank account. More MPP you have an entire factory manufacturing lies. We are now Minister of Information be now say we are fighting against fake news. More the flyers at Nancy who could do in trophy we I said don't get young, so I walk out and be Emma over pound which later. And you are talking about lies. But me to me Kujina platform say he can build district hospitals for $5 million. Meanwhile, the same government now President Ahokate sword AC district hospital for $100 million. Sorry, $35 million. Ewo Shama. Say Obama Cape Coast for Harbour, any airport. 10 months to go. Pick us a gram of a bit more from Ewo Cape Coast. Yet we see Ubiabum. My memory 24 see arrogance. I dare that what unim. Yet we see won't say. We are sir who movie in the eyes of listeners. First of all, say Baumia Bekan someone. And Muna invite him some member. Into move items some man make about me some meba memo wooding.
Darby.
It's me bold dear. And the Boba Mia dear. How has he got under my skin? Abraham Mama can 24-hour economy. Baumia Kujina the chrome I responded to. Had Mama gotten under his skin. Massa, those days are about me on my Belmonti. People didn't know him and all kinds of amount for they are over. And now, or year where we know, on one try for trouble on his way. Send a few more retreat from distancing about mere distancing from your friends saying, I put for the government by saying that now accept it because they have come and
almost in the speech, there is no way he says what distancing.
Maybe I catch first of all, they flew a kite through Coffee Bent will be any talk about me team.
No, or say or no pay Baumia, and not just all kind of team.
He's a surrogate of Baumia, everybody knows it.
But that's not wrong, is it?
Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, so Okas or MPP, there will be nothing wrong. Except MPP, I'm on your cult. It's what I catch there. Say, ma, you're more about me, you know, what were they trying to tell us? And then you bent up, friends, a chairman Sabunsu, attach ya. These are MPP stalwarts. They've said the same thing. Say, Baumia cannot be blamed. Now, Yanko blame me, Menana, Akoko, Wohum. But me am the 2C it so be can say on me can say they will move from taxation to production. Taxation to production, what did he mean? Wo buy all the 40 taxes they be go yeso. And I mean the 2C it so me can say yen ya borrow too much and they will do differently. In fact, page 13 of our 2016 manifesto. They promised to reduce borrowing. What they can if you 120, quote 600, have you reduced borrowing? Interest rates, if we made 20s, equal 40 a few months ago, percent, a few months ago. Who's winning, my dear? Now, when you actually, President Mama, since 2021, or year, and thank you to Sokai. The first public lecture, you know, any Kempiski, Mokovai, you heard them speak about policy alternatives. Okachiramo say, the way a man mismanage economy, no, you have to go to the IMF to ensure policy credibility. Your investors no ain't lose confidence with you. What's now? And I won't go. We are a proud people. Almost now for 2 years, my name must say until say a bedu bia a man for starting say almost chum seek a free. Yeah, my and until the Bank of Ghana government, like I said, at the beginning of 2022, they had 6 billion in the reserves. By the end of the year, no, now akabe $1 billion because there was capital flight. People didn't have confidence in you anymore. Restructuring. Go and read that speech. Ewa Kempiski. John Mama can want him. Wakaso about 24-hour economy. Obi. Me no say. Watch it for one in the town. Watch it after 6 p.m. Nipas, is it the regular practice?
Maybe because there is no demand.
Absolutely. So
at that time.
So you have to stimulate that demand. That is the difference between the American and any pedestrian trouble analysis. Miracle saying. Why? TUC, General Secretary, the PhD holder. Your friend say, he has given full endorsement to that policy because he is in the business of employment generation. Into name the value of the 24-hour economy policy. Since and there's no deliberate policy, share essential services. It is because of the nature of their work. Into pharmacy VPA at midnight because we are here. Hospital doing gas over because we be anytime. Essential. Apart from them, only a handful of sectors in the industry has been around 24 hours. Your mama say he will make it the norm rather than the exception.
But how do you ensure
he has
that?
Said that first of all, people need incentive to be able to run that way. There are companies they are producing at half capacity because value chain, no, the cost is too much. Who can't import as look at taxes and masses are Ediogu imports. So the person cannot export raw materials because of taxes. Meanwhile, there's market where uncle to me produce and baby meat. Drama catcher also bar. He will have a certain tariff regime, a more incentive for industries that want to run that way. Now I have one more by the installation of special meters that give those incentives. Waka say Obama tax breaks. In 1995, under Mr. Budakwi as trade minister, under the Rollins regime, and the free zones we buy. Free zones companies, so don't you give them 10 years tax incentive? And nothing I walk you have heavy hitters. Cargill, Barry Calibo, any major industries there. It was a special program designed by an NDC government. And nothing is because it did not drop from the sky. So you need a special policy. John Mama catch also bar. He will scrap Esgasha and Bamia is repeating it. Yet to say John Mama for policy behind my. Into say if it was not a policy, what was Bamia mentioning it for? Now Udi Agra no bomb Mugu and not one system. John Mama see bar, he will reduce the size of government. You won't have hundreds of what do you call it? Political appointees. Oh, your friends and what?
But the number not sure the baby saying 60.
Yes,
right?
60. I think is.
Bamia says 50.
No problem, but I know that he's been forced to adopt that position because your mama can't in here. Because in all the year he has been in the government at the point they had over 120 ministers. Almost justify catching and say the volume of work requires it. Meanwhile, the outcome was that by 2021 we were bankrupt. Bamia had never stated anywhere he had that opportunity to comment. Now, or say, oh, you're vice president. You have to agree with the president. If you don't agree, you cannot voice it out. Masa, yeah, you kowaka. He was actually the candidate, the running mate for the opposition. But he was vice president because vice president you cannot be sacked. So you actually have security of tenure, just like a Supreme Court judge. You actually have incentive to dissent if you strongly believe sanity. Aka was prepared to go toe to toe with Rawlings to defend his beliefs and convictions. And I want it. Did he not publicly express his disagreement with the government?
It's resulted in a fight with the president.
But you see, of course, it is not desirable. But at least it showed that he believed in his convictions. Bawumia is not a politician of convenience. He has said it because Amafua Bonechi. 11. Abra NDC 4. A day after the Boba Parliament. Omukofa MP no that ambulance mu. Eba Parliament to vote for 11. And your minority in the Kuti. Bawumia spokesperson Gideon Bwako has told us that Bawumia supports 11. Kojo Aponkoma, he is official spokesperson of government or call big issues. Ewo City. Or say it is not necessary for Bawumia to speak against 11 because he fully supports it. And that he even insisted that there should be a threshold of 100 Ghana cedis. It's also supporting 11 and Akufo-Addo. Yet also about Ubechim. So 11 ya depa na nya depa. Say ya depa na wuchim. And yes, VAT on electricity. He knew said that thing was going to be removed anyway. Because as of last week, now Maya Kachen said they are going to engage the IMF to remove it, but find an alternative way to generate revenue. And yes, I net here. Time at the end of the they said they buy 2 months at least. And yeah, November no pass before Parliament rules. And I was it October also. Has Bawumia offered a whimper in terms of dissenting on that policy?
Okay.
There is no conviction in the things he's saying.
You don't believe anything you heard from him?
He will have district mechanization centers. Waka. In fact, over 2020 manifesto, there are so many items. It's one thing I won't say. Of course, I won't say. Now, sir. Hapless recitations with master digitalization. What is it? Some catch was a man, now was a deputy communications minister.
Yes.
Or say or no day your friend say moment of probability. eServices.com. Master, eServices.com. Mr. Tevi. Now or 2014. Now or Nita. Director General. Or no, and no introduce you eServices.gov. Share a green book in Green Book you published in December 2015. We'll share the last page. We show you the services rendered through eServices.com. How could we have known 1 whole year ahead? Say Bawumia will come and say this and put it in our book. So, as someone can say, Ghana card. When he say, what read this statement in here? Ghana card. For the first time, he was talking about continuing from somewhere. Meanwhile, in the past few months, now creating pressure on the buy. Oba Bemuno. In February 2017, or set up committee to look into Ghana card. So not the committee chairman, no, Kenatefa.
NIA boss.
NIA boss. Bawumia, the office, not the 2, if in the officer, come to review what NIA had done. I read a small portion of the executive summary.
And you end on that.
No problem.
Yes.
No problem. To show you what they had done. And say on it any. Or say, based on thorough, maybe just a minute.
Asempa FM.
Just give me a few minutes.
Asempa FM.
94.7 Asempa FM. So Ekosiisen Jumedi no asugusu a wuti no. Yes.
Omo buy no year review in 2017. The LI that makes the Ghana card the mandatory form of ID for all these transactions. The LI 211 passed by the NDC in 2014. Bawumia Nkasa committee and they say the NIA had collected data from 16 million Ghanaians, and they almost say NIPA 17 million on database. On my near 16 million, and what now 9 million records had been entered into the database out of this 16 million. They had processed about 4.7 million and loaded the records and assigned them unique identification numbers. Now, you are personalizing 2.7 million of the cards and distributed 900,000. At the time, no more 12 million blank cards. Obviously, I printed their money. And now, Omasha is here, registered foreigners. In fact, committee no recommended say there are 3 possible options. Let me say, they can use the existing biometric database within the current PPP solution. Said the award that I'm offering 1 year. Number 2, use the existing biometric databases in the new solution. And number 3, implement a completely new. The committee insisted, said, based on what they had done, it is the considered view of the committee that the adoption of option A, which is using the existing system, will present the least challenge, given that NIA has a functional PPP arrangement. There is also value in the existing NIA data and the other biometric databases built by the various user agencies. Until they actually maintain the same. The only difference is that instead of 4 fingers, almost increasing to 10, and then they use iris instead of facial. That is all. Into where is this claim? So no about championing digitalization. Online passports. As far back as September 2015, now Ministry of Foreign Affairs under Hannah Tete had announced to say they were going to do online passport the following year. December 2016 or launching. Yet by me online passport application processing ABA. Complete lies.
Felix.
The same way I holding draw about job creation figures. It's over now so obiabo meanwhile was a proper yes you've taken inflation from 8% to 54%, yet you are condemning obi odi 8 akọ 15%. Why is the logic in this?
Felix Kwachu for Suni attaining Kano. Dennis Miracles Abuaje
for 27 good minutes.
You have you have the rest of the time. Don't worry, you have the rest of the time.
6:40.
You have the rest of the time.
Let me at 7, but 27 minutes.
Matter.
Obi, you see, the level of arrogance with which Felix Ekana Semono, Ayana Mekre to be an MO, and I can imagine how the rest of Ghanaians are feeling. Sure. It's Felix Obuzuka telling me, say, oh no, NDC, Abaina, no, you're deputy minister for communication.
Asempa FM.
I don't understand. Is that what he's saying? That the
so
man,
no committee,
Papa na niti at some point the signature a day sikaso. Before so the signature a day sikaso.
As Bank of Ghana governor.
The signature day sikaso. Ah no yeah finance minister under President Mills no. What he said oh chantro. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. I was shocked. I was really surprised. Say and for me I think that as young people, in as much as we really want to do politics and protect our bosses, sometimes everybody need the kakra. And for man penny for Obi. Say, Felix. The entire period when I was speaking, you were speaking. I held myself.
You can tell somebody that
Obi call him to order. Obi call him to order.
So that
Obi call him to order.
Okay.
I'm even leaving that because
yeah, I'll be glad. Obi call him to order. Obi call him to order. Obi call him very well. Obi, it's okay. Obi, it's okay. Say, I mean, we know why the sharp teeth are. It's unfaithful to her. I won't be surprised. If or say I'm 24, me I'm not surprised. Obi can say me twins and I'm twins here.
Very
well. People in Bema Obi, you can imagine. If he says I'm 24, no problem. He can continue in his arrogance. But the fact is this, Obi, it's a complete lie. It's a falsehood. Or trust straight. Felix trust straight. I will say to you so. If he says say, or man that John Dramani Mahaba was a member of a certain economy and it's a lie. It's false. Oh, stop it. Stop it. You didn't give any facts. Obi says Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, the guy who lies every day. Against the floor. Oh, can you control him? Okay. Obi, can you control him? Obi, can you control him? Can you control him? Obi, can you control him?
Thank you. Obi, can you control him? Miracles, meet you. Miracles, meet you. Into
stop it. I can give you
proof of
Obi.
Yes, meet you.
29th April 2009.
Okay.
This is exactly 4 months
into the new government.
Yes. OBTA. President John Evans Atamels has constituted a 10-member economic advisory committee to advise him on key economic policy issues and policy options in managing the impact of the economic challenges and maximizing the full potentials of existing opportunities. A statement signed by Mahama Ayariga, presidential spokesperson, said the Economic Advisory Committee and its work shall collaborate closely with all existing institutions in the development and implementation of their policies. The EAC is under the chairmanship of Dr. Goben Nankeni, Members are
Nankani.
Members are Togbe Afede, the ninth, Professor K.N. Afo, Dr. Emmanuel Ablu, Mr. Pakwesi Emisa Atta, Dr. K.Y. Amwakon. The rest are Mr. Joel Hyde, Dr. Kadman Atamils, Mr. Ishmael Yamson, and Mr. Fred Onyenekena, 9th April 2009. The finance minister, who is part of the other institutions who are supposed to work with the Economic Advisory Committee of the President, has come to sit here in your chair. Dr. Dufo, Papa na we be nyuma bebre o my way mu. Why juma so many years of his life. Dr. Dufo na the signature. Oh, Felix, what you are doing is so unfair.
Felix. I told you that
I sat down for 20 something years. I have sat here for 20 something minutes. Stop it. You see, this thing that you are doing, I could have done it. You could have done it. I am reading from
Felix Obi. Miracle. I know this story. The other point, and I'm person may add and say,
please control him.
He would conduct himself well. Mostly say President Air announced EMT or the statement. Have you found any statement communicate the announcement of EMT? Any members of the EMT?
EMT being okay. Which EMT?
No, me because under Mills, one statement.
There's no official.
No,
Mama, that is why. So you should be telling me. Which statement? Felix. Obi, what are you doing?
He wasn't there.
Obi, what are you doing?
Felix,
who are you in that government? Who are you in that government? The finance minister. I am nobody. That's why I'm not coming. That is why. Oh, Charlie, Obi, what are you doing?
I've told you the
No, Obi, that guy lied. He lied. He has given you no evidence apart from what you know.
Felix, for now, Felix, Felix, Tobo. I think. Felix Meba. I think Felix Tobo. I think for now Felix there is a statement signed by Mahama Yarega which is not in dispute. At the end of the day, there is no statement.
Show me the statement that made Mills head of EMT and Attorneys.
No, I've not seen any such statement.
So it doesn't mean there was no EMT.
Very well. In the Manenkasa. Yes. Miracles, Felix,
And it's so disrespectful to your listeners.
Felix, at least I think you've made your point. You've made that point. Let him talk. Maminti or Miracles.
Common sense will tell you, say, in the absence of any other thing, what is present is what we work with. So I have shown you.
Felix, now it's becoming too much. It's becoming too much. Let him finish. You've made that point.
So why do you say in the absence of a
statement? Let him talk.
And then even before was an opponent of Mahama in the contest, speaking politically.
Noted.
He was confronted.
That point has been made.
So what is the issue?
Miracles, me pacho mamintio.
Obi, can I go on?
Me pacho miracles.
And hopefully you control your show.
It is being controlled.
Obi, listen. Yen nyina nim nyansa, yen nyina ko school. Yen nyina yetu me kan. Sa enkane na obi betra radio so no akasa gaga no kono obi etwem. Me say the evidence present for the people of Ghana in terms of who were members of the economic management team that were advising President Mills is a statement which was signed by President Mills' presidential spokesperson, who is now a member of parliament and was minister under his government, Mahama Yarega. The statement is here. President John Evans Atamels has constituted a 10-member economic advisory council to advise him on key economic policy issues and policy options in managing the impact of the economic challenges and maximizing the full potential of existing opportunities. A statement signed by Mahama Yarega, presidential spokesperson, said the EAC in its work shall collaborate closely with the existing institutions for economic policy formulation, development and implementation. The EAC is under the chairmanship of Dr. Gobet Nankani. Members are Togbu Afede, Professor K.N. Afo, Dr. Emmanuel Ablu, Pakwesi Atta, Dr. K.Y. Amwakon. The rest are Joel Hyde, Kadman Atamels, Ishmael Yamson, and Fredo Henekena. Nowhere in this statement did the former President Mills even make the Vice President a member of his advisory committee. Now, Felix, or better radio says, no, they are team. Felix, I catch a radio says, evidence I want to say now committee nibi. Now, apart from this one that the president communicated to the people of Ghana, no, oh Felix, there was another one that you were attending with Professor John Mahama, the former president at Castle. And you ignore president in the statement, no release you know. You that in a day you can lie 5 times. Even now you have lied with this. And also in your fair, so I just say he lied with this. Let's. Obi, can I? Obi,
let's have a decent way. I have called him to order. Let's have a decent conversation. Let's have a decent. Felix, you've made your point. Let him finish. When he finishes, I can give you no. Hold on. I can give you time. Felix, 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 don't do that. Felix, the American say, let him finish. I can give you some time. Felix, no, you don't do that. You don't do that. Felix, you had all the time. Let him finish. When he finishes and you want time, I'll give you time. Relax, you let him finish. Dennis, Mepacho, you have the time. I mean, Felix, your microphone is off. Very well. That point is.
I may be a Choba analyst.
And how does
I may be a Pamoa? What are you doing? What's this guy doing?
Point well.
I didn't.
Felix, that is not proper. That is not proper. Felix, you are a gentleman. You don't do that on this. Very well noted. Very well noted, Felix.
There was no EMT. That's what I'm saying. You are lying.
Good. Miracles.
Next time when Felix has an opportunity to speak to the people of Ghana, he should stick to truth.
Okay.
Then this issue will not come up.
Mate.
I did not speak.
We've settled this issue.
Proceed. Stop disrupting me.
Felix.
You should stop disrupting me.
Felix.
Does not negate the existence
that point has been made. Let him also have the time.
There is no evidence in this country. There is no evidence. What is this guy doing? What is this guy doing?
Felix, I think I've been patient enough. Let him finish. Felix, don't do that. Don't do that. I'll give you time to talk. Don't do that. Let him finish. Miracles, you have
educating the public.
Yes.
The evidence we have in this country is that the former president, through his spokesperson, set up an economic advisory committee on 29th April 2009, and the vice president wasn't even a member. John Mahama was not even a member. That is the evidence we have. We have no other evidence of any other committee set up by Professor.
Point well made. Let's make progress. Point well made.
Now we move on.
Yes.
Now we move on. Now we move on. That was announced. It was also announced. So it means that there was you had only your secret EMT in the castle just by yourself. You lied, Felix. You lied. Let's move on and stop this. Stop.
Miracles. Move on. Meet you.
Obi, watch me time now.
Don't worry.
Anyway, now that we moved on and settled the truth and the facts, let's move on to the issues. Obi, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia say this country has gotten to the point where we need to look into the future, and for him, he believes closely. Say. When he looks at the new challenges and the new difficulties that we are facing as a people, he is very convinced. Say his kind of leadership now, Odebano, is what we need as a country, and he will do that in all truthfulness, in all honesty and sincerity. And in Tiendra, on my 70 policies are Ojidi say mpempenswa yewe. Obi mamka se mitro. In spite of all the noise that the NDC are making, there's one established fact that Omampeni and I don't go for the crowd or the first time we know, and yet Niamo the first time Nina no science we the second time because let me be why ye if you are losing irrelevance, if you are in the exigency of the moment, no, and when you're then
yes.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has analyzed and appraised the country. We share all the various sectors of the country's development. And when we say mpempenswa ye way. In spite of Niama Yetumia Nina, success I achieve, challenges I have film, difficulties I encounter in Nano, or no need DNA say, ye hear on Mampenia Odino Cre, ye hear on Mampenia Nehote, ye hear on Mampenia Brofu, ye send credibility and integrity a day, a high, ne ho near some, and that's Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. On my way, up a politician back home. I want to mean for corruption and tonoswa and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. He has never ever been tagged with any form of corruption. He is not corrupt. He can never be corrupt, and he will never be corrupt in his life. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is a completely different breed of politician that we have ever seen in this country. And that is the kind of leadership we need for the next phase of Ghana's development. Not a politician that baby obe febiana ya de ketasiche and the proye eden edinechi. In fact, on very rare occasions, I'll bet so be about Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia related to corruption. You will hear the clergy come to his defense. You will hear CSOs come to his defense. Even his sworn enemies will come and say, no, as for this man, you cannot taint his credibility and integrity. That is the sort of leadership that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will bring to the fore. Anything Andrew Utie in a year, he was very clear and categorical. Of all the solutions I've heard, all those who want to be president professing for a friend is saying corruption, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia didn't pen out here say to assume. Because obi nipa nipa. Corruption, the only way you can win the corruption fight is to remove human interface in a lot of things. And that is through digitalization. That is through automation. That is through technology. Because you see, once you bring technology, Obi, you'll be fair for an audit free, won't mean you free, won't mean no. Now saying PPA for introducing GANEP system be. Me no ka say, Obi person your procurement, won't mean franchise sumase. Oko PPA website, I'll be going to be then. Ewo say ye be GANEP's procurement system now Obi. Ye bia, we are see for now baby obey. That is the sort of pragmatic solution that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia feels that, listen, we've had enough talk about solving corruption, and all the things we've tried is try to put mechanisms that still bring the human factor into it. Nipa ye nipa. Udi nipa mienu miense bi asha dem na oja omo se omo kwantina se omo fa dwe obi. E very likely impossible say bibi be den ebekoso. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's solution to corruption is to strengthen the technology and digital foundation are all building for on my way. Okay, fellas, we see digitalization. I am not start here. The only thing in this country I need this for to create heaven and earth. I did be on my way behind this for and trying to do so. And the lie is from the top to the bottom. And I'm not surprised with fellas like this actually because they are flag bearer. I'm a flag bearer, no. Nancy, I'm telling you about the sort of lies. Nancy, I was standing on the campaign platform. Ojina Ghana for any Muslim or about 20 months or say every university, and I'm picking my words carefully, every university in this country, every public university in this country was built by the NDC. Is that the case? And Osha body language, Osha the confidence, and the finesse, or my opinion of the chantro now. I'm not surprised. And the only thing that the NDC did not create in this country,
you made that point.
Say Yakopon
but you made that point. Felix, you made this point. Mama allowance kaka. It's okay. And then very well. Felix, Mama allowance kaka. It's okay. Very well.
This guy
Felix. Put it off. I won't have a position. We don't. No, I've told you, say Oria.
I allowed you to speak.
When you also came in, I can understand.
Oria, I'll give you some 2 minutes. Let him finish.
Felix and Tony are so deep seated. Say,
Munyai in Trench. Let's stick with the issue. Mummy, wait, chant. Mummy, your friend saying miracles.
It is the NDC never introduced mobile money interoperability. They never did.
But
they never
introduced it.
They never did. They never introduced mobile
But there was
mobile money.
that
was when move
It's not true. It's not true.
the corrupt contract.
It was revised.
No, it was cancelled.
Obi, another line.
This
Makasa Mema was
Even before
Felix,
you could
you are now making it difficult for me to give you time. I'll give you time. Dabi, don't worry. I'll give you time. Don't worry. I'll give you time.
The only thing in this country that the NDC didn't create heaven and earth. Apart from heaven and earth, they created everything and they are all lies. Complete fabrications, complete falsehoods.
Did you bring on like
Dr. This guy.
Is it true or not? Which guy?
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, during his speech, was very categorical.
Okay.
One means West. He was very clear, cogent, clear cut about what he's going to do at every specific sector. And the education, he was categorical. I say free SHS, he was categorical. So we know Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's intention about free SHS. We don't know that of the NDC. They said they will review, but we don't know what it is. So we are still waiting for that. It's a very important point. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia said, listen, Obe enhance, now we reposition the education sector by introducing and I say enhancing STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics. Obi, Osanso Kosoka say, oh, Charlie,
what does it mean?
Obi
enhances STEM. But you say Obi, that fellas here is not my fellas. It's not fair. It's not fair. Fellas, no, but please, without you.
Next time, everyone say when I walk as a last.
Why have you? What's the minimum pa? Why does the minimum pa?
What say obviously review needs to bro? It's not specific. What does enhance STEM mean?
Or say Obi movie towards artificial intelligence.
AI.
Yes. Which is the emerging theme?
The ish now.
Is the emerging theme under STEM. So that's what he means by enhancing. Oh, challenge the make be Obi ya Obi. Oh, Obi, so you are fine.
From taxation to production. Obi Ekosiisen say 40 different taxes.
Oh, but this was fair. This is fair, and it's so wrong. Obi, and you know, say no, I have really tried not to.
Why are they? Why are they? Why are they?
I didn't say you say
the amount of time
was also Kaisi and education. Obi expanded infrastructure at the medical schools, as well as the Ghana Law School, to support and increase admission for these two categories. Until again, and education, we know clearly, so Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia say, he feels that when it comes to medical training and legal training, there is a gap. And going into our next chapter, no, he's going to expand infrastructure there. He's very categorical. Until we know clearly what he's going to do there. Under macroeconomy, or say, Obe improve you on fiscal discipline. By ensuring, say, we'll have an independent fiscal responsibility council, which would be enshrined in the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Or say, Obe reducing the number of ministers to 50. Very categorical, very bold. He's been straightforward. One fan konantin chain, one can say me ba I would may use ministers kakra or say 50. Very categorical. Or say Obe reducing fiscal burden on government by leveraging on private sector. And I think he gave examples about how he could go into outsourcing of some of the logistics used by public sector to
leasing,
to private sector. And also he was very, very categorical. And of course tax reforms. Or say Obe introduced a very simple citizen and business friendly flat tax regime. Categorical flat tax regime. A flat tax regime of a percentage of income of individuals and SMEs. So it's very clear in his mind. Or say Obe making sure say electronic and faceless audits by GRA. Into sa current situation here, GRA ba no ma better na console. Oton pure tobacco no ma market. Oton we no ma market no. So be dey. Obe ye free to make sure so be anyina o console, but yet you would be compliant. Or say there will be no taxes on digital payments. E-levy will therefore be abolished. He believes that going into the future, with the next level of Ghana's developmental agenda, he's going to drive it with digitalization. Based on that, he still thinks that we need that revenue to do what we need to do. But he believes that these other tax reforms that Odebano would be able to generate that same amount of money, and so he wouldn't need the e-levy so that sector could thrive. Or say, it would not, and not be TNE, or say, no VAT on electricity if it is still on our books. If it is still on our books. And we must be clear. The reason why our cast say Ministry of Finance released a statement, I think the same yesterday.
Yes.
Said they've withdrawn the implementation, and I said they've suspended the implementation of the
15%.
and that they are going to engage.
Yes.
You want to say? Don't forget, I fell asleep on the VAT on electricity bio. They brought the law. They introduced it.
Law.
No, let's put it on record. The VAT on electricity was introduced by the NDC. Let's put it on record.
No,
hold on. Oh, fellas, why would you? Why?
It was on. No. It was on commercial. Fellas,
I'm sitting down for you to lie.
it was on commercial. It was on commercial meters. No, sir, it was introduced on commercial meters.
So that VAT tax was actually introduced. VAT on electricity for commercial.
For commercial, yes, and the NDC.
By the NDC. Stop disrupting me. ABM, I say he's going to ensure Tema Port will be fully automated. Then he said that there will be a new policy aligning the duties and charges at Tema Port to the duties and charges at Lome Port. Obi, this is very, very, very instrumental.
Guta for
and this is something the Guta guys have always been calling for since Kojohohu. Or say, Ghana, one of the things I guess, what in Yamafa Loma or Fem? What in Yamafa Loma or Fem? Dr. Mahmoud Baumia say, Obama Ghana, yeah, of the policy, be by your duties and your charges, where say Lome Port. Inti asema enika sempa Ghana your duties no ebe say Lome Port. Who is obi to be kofa kafia brochi no da kofa Lome. Simply because only say Lome charges near den e wo fam. Ebi won say ye nuanu mo ton spare parts. E wo aboso kan ene soame no duties no ebe flat rate per container. It is all the 20-footer container ne buy. And I'm so many 20-footer container ne buy and fa ho dia e she munyina mo betu duty pepepe. Say the beya ebe is discretion e wo mu na e ma leakages bebre e den eba no na e reduce burden na e wo spare parts dealers no. Do you know what this means? What this means is that tax burdens no be kofem. No more to be the normal do ones why den aba omanim. Obi under industrialization. He was very clear. Or say he's going to protect local industry from smuggled imports that evade import duties. And of course, this can easily be done with all the digital transformation that Ekosiisen my women. Again, he said that the special economic zones will be created in collaboration with private sector at Ghana's major border towns. And he's not just talking about special economic zones, He's quite categorical what he wants to do. At Ghana's major border towns such as Aflao, Paga, Elibo, Sankase and Tatali to enhance economic activity, increase exports and reduce smuggling and create jobs. He's taking almost 50 minutes of my time.
Oh, 50 minutes. So our time saying now I want to take you 15 minutes.
About 6
now, but you've spent almost 20 minutes arguing with me.
No. You yourself said the parameter. What's it? Okasa from 6 months.
I'll do 2 minutes.
What's Okasa from?
What you're doing to me? I say he's going to ensure. Obi will talk about here. No. I mean, that means Obi. Who talk about here?
Why? Unless you agree, say you, despite the time, also overextended by a certain number of minutes.
That means I mean to me, extend you.
No, but you took my time. Fairness and natural justice. I say then he's going to introduce individuals credit scoring system.
Yes.
What it means is that
so unless you are individual scoring way. Later to us.
You see, the critical things I say Ghana for United States.
Yes.
John Mahama has been campaigning for close to a year. Close to I got 2 months within 1 year. Till date. And Dr. Mahmoud Baumia Kasa for just about 1 hour 45 minutes. Ghana Nibia across everywhere can relate and find himself in what Dr. Mahmoud Baumia intends for us going into the future. But to date we can't talk for Dr. former President Mahama. The strategy is simple. He won't say anything. He won't prefer anything. You're better say Obegu Abainu Fi. Ne campaign na ye nana do ntumi aye we ntumi ntoma me ne campaign na ye nana do ka say ntumi ntoma me What do you mean, baby?
Why are you allowing this?
The last time I counted,
why you allow this on
I
Twitter?
counted
It's not
345. I counted 345 promises that John Dramani Mahama made in his 2024 manifesto that he had power that he couldn't do.
2024.
Again, I counted
2020.
he made in 2012. So we are president. No, 1 year. I counted again. Obi, Nancy was static as I own. Nancy was static as I own. The cover of the manifesto, no, I counted in that manifesto 13 of things that he said. He said, Felix, why? Felix, and then one year,
you finish.
Don't do that. You are
guys. Mamena Moas.
Obi, one yard. Don't say 1 year. Make us say he has misbehaved. Tell him, don't be charitable. Or your honorable minister, this will be honorable MC. He needs to give me trouble for the Eniba. Obi, trouble for the Eniba. Obi, trouble for the Eniba.
Okay, thank you. Professor E.K. Wallace. I am ready.
You are even indicting and maligning.
I've enjoyed the debate. We'll do this again.
From taxation.
I am very aggrieved. I'm very aggrieved with the manner in which I the fellow should know.
We'll continue this debate.
From taxation to production.